A man rescues a bear caught in a trap, and then the bear does something incredible. An incident that occurred in one of Canada's ancient forests was seen as an unbelievable event by everyone. One day, while patrolling deep within the forest, John, a dedicated park ranger, suddenly halted in his tracks. A strange, echoing sound caught his attention, unlike anything he had heard before. Initially, he glanced around cautiously, his senses on high alert. John, deeply attuned to the rhythms of the forest through years of experience, trusted his instincts implicitly. He quickly recognized that the sounds he was hearing weren't human, though they bore an uncanny resemblance to the cries of someone injured and calling for help. His intuition told him that whatever was making those sounds, it was likely a sign of trouble. Despite his growing sense of unease, John couldn't resist the pull of curiosity. He pressed on, each step bringing him closer to the source of the distressing sound. When he finally arrived at the location, what he saw stopped him in his tracks. A bear was trapped, its limbs twisted and entangled in cruel barbed wire. The animal groaned in pain, clearly struggling to break free from the hunter's trap. John could see the bear's efforts were futile, its legs ensnared and bloodied from the sharp wire. With its head caught in a noose, it was trapped from every angle and in a state of utter despair. Every time the bear moved to escape, it caused more pain for itself. The poor animal was making those desperate pleading cries due to its agony. When the bear made a sudden move to stand, John instinctively pointed his rifle at it. John was quite experienced in matters like these because of his work. He knew what a bear was capable of and how powerful it could be, especially when injured, which often made them more aggressive. Letting his guard down could have been fatal for John. However, a voice inside John told him that this time was different and he needed to help. The bear's desperate eyes seemed to plead for help, and John, overcome with compassion, set aside his fears and approached. As expected, the frightened bear lashed out defensively. In a surprising move, John dropped his rifle to show he meant no harm. This gesture calmed the bear, likely accustomed to viewing humans as threats. Although the bear no longer felt endangered, John had put himself at great risk, now unarmed and vulnerable, a bold act of trust and bravery. But John once again chose to trust his instincts. John slowly got even closer and knelt beside the bear. He kept his hands visible at all times to earn the bear's trust. The bear seemed to understand all of this and surprisingly remained calm. It didn't make any moves to scare John either. John began examining the traps that had ensnared the bear. He first focused on the barbed wires that had wrapped around its legs. The wires had already started to pierce the bear's skin. Carefully, John began to remove the barbed wire from the bear's leg. The poor bear groaned in pain as the barbs dug into its flesh. John removed all the wires. Now only the trap around its paw remained. Once he removed this, the bear would be completely free. There were two possibilities. Either the bear would attack John once it was freed, or it would run away from the spot. Unfortunately, John had no choice but to trust, gathering all his courage and love for animals. He freed the bear's paw from the trap. At last, the poor bear is free, but John does not expect the bear's reaction. Instead of leaving, the bear lay down right where it was. Meanwhile, John took the opportunity to step back. From where he stood, John couldn't help but feel sad. The bear had cuts and wounds on almost every part of its body. John felt the bear's pain within himself. A few minutes later, the bear tried to gather its strength and stand up. It was losing its balance as it walked. Stumbling and limping, the bear tried to move but eventually collapsed to the ground. Without thinking, John rushed over and knelt beside the bear. He spoke to it in a calm voice, trying to soothe it. John didn't want to leave the animal alone here because the hunters in the forest wouldn't leave the poor animal in peace. If they caught it, they would do things no human heart could bear. John made his decision. He immediately grabbed his radio and called the local wildlife clinic. He explained the situation and asked for help. The clinic promptly sent an emergency team to John's location. The team tranquilized the bear and took it in for examination. Researchers concluded that the bear had likely been subjected to this torture for days without food or water. The infection had begun to form in the bear's open wounds. It was deemed necessary for the bear to undergo surgery to prevent the progression and effects of the infection. The wounded bear faced a high risk of losing a leg without immediate intervention. The team quickly transported it to the clinic, where veterinarians performed emergency surgery, treating its wounds and administering antibiotics. Post-surgery, a chilling revelation emerged. This incident was not isolated, with similar cases reported in recent weeks. This enraged John, who feared more animals might suffer the same fate. As the bear recovered under observation, the team debated releasing it back into the wild. John opposed this, knowing the dangers of traps in the forest. However, limited shelter and resources forced the decision to release the bear. Accepting the situation, John resolved to return to the forest to track down the culprit responsible. He was on a tight schedule and had to hurry. Immediately, he took the evidence gathered at the clinic and went to the police station. He began the investigation with the animal control team. But this wasn't enough for John. He felt he needed to track the culprit himself to resolve this incident. He began investigating, equipping himself, and placing hidden surveillance cameras in the areas of the forest where hunting was most common. However, he found no trace of anyone. Days were passing quickly. The veterinarians couldn't reach John, but they would soon release the bear into the wild. Finally, one night, John was awakened by the alarm from the wildlife camera. He immediately jumped up. Adrenaline seemed to have replaced the blood in his veins. Grabbing a flashlight, he set out for the forest. John, trembling with excitement, began following the tracks in the forest. In the pitch-dark night, every movement caused his heart to race. Soon, he was closer to where the sounds were coming from. This was an area he rarely checked while patrolling the forest. Suddenly, the sound stopped. The terrifying silence of the forest took their place. John held his breath and kept taking steps. Right in front of him, he saw a newly set trap. The man must be nearby. When he turned around, he saw a dark figure approaching him. Instantly, he leaped at the approaching figure and attacked. After a brief struggle, John managed to subdue the man, confirming that he was indeed responsible for setting the traps. Without hesitation, John called the police to the scene. Upon their arrival, the authorities arrested the man and collected the remaining evidence before heading to the station. During questioning, the man confessed to his crimes and revealed the locations of all the other traps he had placed in the forest. The authorities located and neutralized all the traps described by the culprit. With that task complete, the wounded bear, now fully recovered, was ready to be released back into the wild. It was transported by truck and set free deep within the forest. However, as soon as it regained its freedom, the bear did something completely unexpected. Instead of fleeing immediately, the bear paused and turned back, gazing at the people who had rescued it with eyes that seemed to convey profound gratitude. The sight was deeply moving, and John, along with the other rescue team members, found themselves unable to hold back their tears. After a moment, the bear looked ahead once more and began its journey into the depths of the forest, disappearing gracefully among the tall trees. What an incredible story! If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment below. See you in the next video.